Hi everyone, I'm Balázs and I promise to be short, and I'll talk about shorts. So I'm a maker of short films. I've been practicing it for almost 20 years now. And so I've developed the method somewhat. I make short films for festivals. I also make music videos. I make political cartoons in Hungary. And yes, so I'll just very briefly talk about the medium of short film, which either you might want to get into for some reason, or you might know someone who wants to get into it, especially animated short films. So a short film is basically a short story translated into cinema, and I specialize in animated short films, so I have no idea about live action filmmaking. Short films are seen, short films are shown to each other at festivals, and there is a huge gender equality, so there are lots of amazing female animated short filmmakers. Some people are afraid of animation because they think they can't draw. And now I just want to show you a few examples of people who clearly can't draw and yet are very renowned animation filmmakers. Some of them are my favorites, so you can very well make a very funny or abstract or dramatic film without mastering drawing knowledge. Script writing for a short, well, depends on how short you want to make your film. Basically, at festivals, you can see films that are half a minute long or up to 20 minutes long. Longer than that is not so short anymore. I read a few books on script writing and watched a lot of videos and listened to podcasts, and there is no great method, I heard. Basically, this is the structure of a short story. It's also the structure of a joke or of this presentation or of anything that might happen. So I had some success with a short film called Amok, which you can watch if you like. I can send you a link. Just as an example, I want to talk about how I found inspiration for it. So I was reading Jung, and he has this idea of the shadow. The shadow, by definition, is the part of ourselves that we don't know. It's the dark part. And if you don't become conscious about your shadow, it can overtake control of you, basically, maybe in the form of actions that you don't really want to do, maybe in the form of illness, maybe in the form of psychological illness. And there are lots of films, of course, which deal with this kind of anti-hero, the dark anti-hero. So I wanted to make an animation version of this, let's say. I looked for some inspiration in this 2000s very neon, glowy, cyberpunk kind of aesthetics. And I came up with this hero, Clyde, who has suffered a terrible accident and lost his girlfriend in the accident, and he's kind of possessed by his dark side now, who is symbolized by that little garden gnome that you saw at the beginning and in the trailer. The next part, well, for me, writing the short story of the film took about a year. So for me, it was clearly the most difficult part, because if you tried to tell a good story to anyone, you know how difficult it is, or if you ever try to write a short story or anything. But once you find that, and you manage to find the right ending for your story, if you're making a short film, the next part is creating the storyboard. This is where you put the verbal narration into visual narration. So here, everything you try to tell in the story, you try to show it in the most interesting or most adequate way possible. These are my characters, so as you can see, my drawing abilities are not top, as I said, but in the short film making, it really doesn't matter, because these characters will come alive once you move them. So you try to define the character, how they look, how they move, and this is what will mainly express their behavior and their psychology. You create your backgrounds, or you hire a background maker. For the next film I'm preparing, I'm using kind of sketchy, unfinished, dreamlike backgrounds. I'm still trying to develop my painting skills. The animatic is, I think, the most important part of making an animated film. This is basically the timed sketch of the film. It's a cinematic sketch. It shows the right timing and the right dramaturgy of all that will happen. And for example, this scene I have already partly animated, although the quality is low here because it's a GIF. You can find great 2D and 3D software, animation software for free, like Krita and Blender are crowd-sourced projects created for free. And there are certain other professions which you need to create your short film. But most of these, especially during the design process, have a free equivalent. Here I put the names of the professionals that I worked with for my last film. So if ever you need a good musician, sound designer, etc., and you can't find one, please contact me. Or animator for that matter. So one question is getting your short film funded. Most countries in Europe have short film fundings in place, including Bulgaria. You can see the deadline for submitting your short film plan if you're planning one. And usually these films are created in European co-productions, which means when I'm talking about short film making, I mean drawing the film or inventing it. I also mean if you are a business kind of person, you might want to consider making a film production company, and if you don't want to make it high risk, then making short films, for example, is a good way of getting into the business because you find an artist, a writer, director who will create your short film project, and you submit it to, for example, the Bulgarian Film Institute, and you might get selected to make a short film. There are also pitch forums, which kind of look like what we're doing now, where directors and producers pitch their short film plans to each other. The Central European Animation Forum is one of them, Cartoon Forum is another, and there are many residencies. Not many, there are a few residencies, for example, the one in Denmark, in Viborg, where artists can go and live there for months or even years if they like and develop their short film plans. So once I went through the struggle of creating my short, I was quite unsure of myself, but I presented it at the Annecy Animation Festival in France, and complete surprise to me, it won the main prize. Thank you. And there is no money involved in this prize, for example. But it means the world to me because it means that I can continue to do a next short film, because with a prize like this, you're very probable to find co-producers and funding, etc. And then we found, because of the prize, we also found a distributor, a French distributor, who sells the film to national television channels or to online platforms and so on. And then my producers get paid. I don't really get paid a lot for that, but they are the businessmen. And finally, why you might not want to make a short film. Actually, some of the presentations tonight, like the one about sitting postures, is very linked to animation. You can't do animation in a rocking chair, unfortunately. You need to be completely stable, and you spend 4 to 8 hours a day hunched in front of your computer, drawing lines very carefully. But you see that basically, if you are talking about dream creation, I think creating an animated short might be the best method in the world, because you create something possibly even alone, simply out of your own fantasy, to present on a cinema screen. Thank you very much. That's it.